What's up, y'all? It's the Relentless podcast where we're stirring up passion and purpose for marriage.
That's right. We're diving into topics you always wanted to talk about. Real life, real struggles, real love, and real results. So what are we waiting for? Let's go in.
Welcome back to Relentless podcast. Thank y'all for tuning in. I hope y'all have been enjoying the episodes. We're so excited today. We're talking about individuality and how important it is not to lose yourself in the marriage, because we show up, we're two very unique individuals, two different perspectives, but we become one. And so we're going to talk about that, the importance of oneness, but also just being you, your true authentic self. So for me, coming into our marriage, if y'all remember the first episode, we met while I was in dance school. And so I had these dreams and aspirations of becoming a dance educator, had a scholarship to Debbie Allen Dance Institute, but then I got pregnant. And so sometimes you can lose parts of yourself in the marriage, but you have to find a way to fight for it. So that has been a struggle for me because I don't have the time. I had to focus on family. But it is a goal. It's on my bucket list to get back to it, do some ballroom dancing eventually.
Yeah, she gonna have me waltzing and doing all kind of stuff. Man.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Our first unofficial date.
Facts. Yeah, it was salsa.
He tried to, engage in my thing, but it was my thing. Dance wasn't his thing. So, you try to make it work and meet in the middle, but it's okay to have your separate things. Like Brock has his anime. I just can't quite get into it with him.
One day she will.
And I made it a goal this year to try to play video games. I haven't made it to it yet, but it's on the list.
Not yet. Yeah, we got like 12 video game systems in our house, but I'm like, here, get this one. Here, try that one. She like, well, one day. That's my thing. That's not her thing.
But it's a desire for us to have that friend time. So.
Right. Yeah. And this is a normal struggle. Yep. So if you struggle with this, like, you are part of humanity. Yep. Like, this is not some like abnormal one-off thing, because again, it's right. Two people are joining together in marriage and becoming unified. We hear this term oneness, becoming one. You become one, not in the sense of like me and you are merging ourselves together and we're now becoming one person. I'm still sitting over here and you sitting over there.
Right.
Everything that shaped me into who I am prior to us getting married is still a part of who I am. Mm-hmm. And I have to fight for that, right? And fighting for your individuality is something that is important to the marriage, but not something to be a dominant thing in the marriage. And I think that's what we want to talk through and kind of dissect today is how do you keep individuality and keep it as an asset or a superpower to your marriage versus it being something that you hold as an idol or something you hold as supposed to be dominant in the marriage over the oneness aspect. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so what is oneness, right? What does that mean for a man and a woman to become one?
Yeah, personally, I think it means like you become unified in what the goal is for the marriage. Oneness, it means becoming unified in the purpose, the reason why y'all are getting married. Unified that I'm committing to love you, I'm committing to serve you. I'm committed to these goals that we have. I'm committed to us partnering together, working together. I'm committed to, if you have children, how can we raise these children in a way that where they're the most successful they can be based on what me and you do together? Yeah. Like oneness in our beliefs and our faiths, like kind of fighting for that unity, right? And it may not just happen right when you say I do, right? And that tying into last episode, if you watched last episode, unrealistic expectation that the magic is just gonna happen soon as you put that ring on. No, you fight for oneness.
You do.
You fight for it. And so I think it's just that unification of two lives coming together saying, how can we make each other the greatest person we can be? How can we love unconditionally? And how can we have vision and purpose and be on a mission within our marriage and do it together and not do it as two people trying to go this way, but two people saying we're agreeing to go this way.
Right. And you're right. We don't physically merge, but there is a commingling. There is an entanglement that happens, which is why you want to be intentional.
A good entanglement. You hear me? Listen, don't be out here getting entangled.
Yeah. Well, that was my point. You want to get entangled with your spouse.
Yeah, with your spouse.
Why you cannot, there's no way to get entangled that it's just a mess. But yeah, you want your lives to intertwine and it makes something beautiful. And you're right, it's that unified envision, but there's still unique perspectives, but it makes a broader, more full, complete picture, a more beautiful picture envisioned.
Yeah. And the healthy conflict is throwing different ideas out that may be abstract to you, and then you're fighting. Okay, well, where's the common thread between your individual creative thoughts, ideas, perspectives, and mine? Where's the line that ties it all together to where we're trying to go? And kind of fighting and navigating through that, which then creates alignment.
You keep saying fighting, so make sure you clarify that.
Contending for.
Yes,
contending.
Yes. You stand for it. Don't relent.
Searching for. Figuring out, right?
Yes.
Not like, oh, I hate your ideas. Not that. Fighting for means I'm not gonna let this push me away from the table, but I'm sitting at the table even through disagreement, uncomfort. This is different to say where's the common thread of where we want to be.
But the point is, it won't be easy. Mm-hmm. It takes work. It takes dying to yourself, because nothing makes you realize how selfish you are until you get married.
Right.
And then when you master that, it's having kids. But it exposes how selfish and self-centered and self-focused we are. So can you surrender what you think is right or your way to compromise? That's what oneness is about, is we don't have to agree on everything, but can we come to a meeting point? Can we meet in the middle? Can we merge our ideas? Can we do that peaceably? And
we do it all the time. Like, if we just keep it 100, like, if you work for a company, if you can go to work and work for an organization that you don't 100% agree with their values, but you agree to work towards the cause of accomplishing the goal at the time, then we just keeping it real, we don't have a valid excuse not to come into our marriage.
Yeah.
That we're the owners of, that we are the CEOs and the founders of, and then be like, well, I don't want to work towards the goal of having a healthy marriage. It's got to be my way, or da-da-da. All right, hold up, man, step back. Let's really fight for oneness here. Let's really humble ourselves. Because if we can do it somewhere else, we can do it in the home, in our marriage, with our kids, and I think that's beautiful. Keep your individuality in it and fight for the oneness. The individuality is a superpower. Yeah. It's a superpower.
But oneness also doesn't mean codependency. And we talked about that. Like, you don't want to be smothering to one another, right? It means that you can kind of stand on your own, even though you are unified. And you're walking side by side as you're moving forward in this vision.
Yeah. I don't want to be codependent.
Yeah.
Because that then it hurts you at the end of the day. And I don't need to be hurting you by being codependent. I need to be able to say, there's some things I can do on my own. I can think for myself.
Right.
I can accomplish things for myself, and I don't need to have you being my crutch every single time, or being my out. You're my out every single time.
Right.
And so can we kind of just dive into that individual aspect of like why it's important for you as a husband, as a wife, as a spouse to fight for oneness, but maintain your individuality, and why is that important?
Well, I think the unique perspective that you bring is powerful when it comes to parenting. The kids need to see both a man and a woman, husband and wife, like they need to see y'all functioning, like showing up as your true authentic self, bringing your values and your vision and direction. Right. Because if everybody's like conforming and there's uniformity, which is not, that's not oneness either. Yeah. But when you can't think for yourself and you're like, oh, I don't know, honey, what do you think? And you're like this puppet.
Ooh, we done been at the table.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay.
Like, no, what do you think? You talk.
It's okay to have a voice.
Right.
You can be submitted to one another and have mutual respect. But you can have a mind of your own, and it's okay. And again, you can agree to disagree.
Right.
And that there's power in that. So I think those different perspectives is what makes it just more complete and healthy.
Facts. And we talk about diversity all the time.
Yeah.
Like we're diverse in our marriage. And so don't lose yourself. Like I don't want to lose myself in the title of husband and leader and father and all of that, right? And then I lose the Brockness of me for the sake of, well, I just need to conform and completely die to myself to become a robot to the task at hand, right? And like end up being in an identity crisis later. Because if we be honest, like a lot of relationships hurt, don't survive, or burn because of bitterness.
Right.
And bitterness and resentment comes because, well, I died. I'm not myself and I sacrificed myself to be the husband and wife I need to do. Okay, well, maybe you were sacrificing yourself in the wrong way.
Right.
You were sacrificing your personality. You were sacrificing the DNA that make you who you are. To now you feel like you're not yourself anymore. And that may be self-sabotage.
Right.
And not necessarily unification or becoming one in the sense the way God desired for us to be one. Because if you're sitting at home in your marriage bitter because you feel like you're in an identity crisis and you live in a life that's, well, when I'm with my husband, I act a certain way.
Yeah.
When I'm at the dinner table out eating dinner with somebody else, I gotta act and perform a certain way. But then when I get home by myself, I gotta be another way. Okay, now wait, hold up.
Yeah.
Maybe now there's some identity stuff going on and you're losing yourself for the sake of conforming to the marriage and not being able to fully embrace and show up as your unique individual self.
Yeah, in the season that I was a stay-at-home mom, I remember wrestling with that. Like I had these dreams and these goals and desires that I had to lay down for a season. And I think that's important. There are going to be seasons where we lay that down, but you don't want to just abandon them and dismiss them because God gave you those dreams. He gave you those gifts to bring them as a gift to the marriage, as a gift to the family. And if you never operate in that, you're missing something. Y'all are gonna fall short of whatever you're supposed to achieve together. So, I embraced that for the season, but I didn't stop dreaming. Yeah. I was building myself, I was growing my family, and now we get to work together. So everything that y'all see us do, even our passion with mentorship, like we've always, because we've had to contend for our purpose and calling within our marriage too, and figuring ourselves out, like we now want to empower the people. So we do that with young adults. I do that now with women, because it is so easy as a woman, especially, to lose yourself in your husband, to lose yourself in being a mom. But man, there's amazing things that our families need us to do. Yeah.
And if you're watching this and you have questions about who you are, that's an indicator that you might need to like kind of go on a self-discovery journey. And when we say who you are, we don't mean like, hey, my name is, Sean. I'm, 28 and I'm, I came from, this city and this, that. We're talking about like who you are inside, your gifts, your talents, your personality, your quirks, why you have them. The dreams and visions. Yeah. Why do you have these? Why do you feel this? Why are you passionate about these things? Why, like those kind of more deep inward things that really make you who you are. That's what we mean by we say your individuality, right? Those things that are unique to you that like once you get in a marriage, you analyze it for the goodness of the marriage, but you don't just throw it all away to say, I'm a new person now in this marriage. Right. Those things are meant to complement and enhance your marriage and be a benefit to your spouse. And a lot of times, if we kind of have this warped perception of how we're supposed to function in a marriage, we end up killing our whole self off. Yeah. And turning into something else.
We hide behind our spouse. We kind of stand in their shadow instead of like standing side by side, which is the stronger position for a family. But that midlife crisis that you refer to, it happens. We see it all the time. You get to 50 or whatever, and then you start, man, I'm going to just go buy a motorcycle. And you're not consulting with your spouse because you're like, oh, this is going to make me feel better about myself. No, this is wise because you've totally sacrificed in an unhealthy way, like with the wrong motive. Right. And now you're trying to overcompensate by doing all these like irrational things, thinking that that's going to fill the void.
Right. when you could have maybe rented a motorcycle throughout. Look, I'm being solution minded, right? Like you could have at 30, you could have rented one. You may not own it, but you could have went. You could have occasionally went out instead of saying, "Well, that part is dead for me." Until the kid get okay. Now you gonna have built up stuff inside of you that's probably gonna come out in nasty arguments or like all.
So it's okay,
things.
like if you have a desire for that, but then consult with your spouse, right? Because y'all are a team, you're a partner, and that's why oneness is important. Like make that decision together, so you don't create division trying to just do you. That's it. I'm gonna do me. Like you're still a couple.
I remember, and this ties into a communication aspect of this because communication is tied into every single topic, every single part of a marriage. We gotta talk and be vulnerable with our spouses, be honest, transparent with our spouses, and have a safe space to do that. I remember just sporadically throughout our marriage, you or me would bring up dancing. Like, man, I would love to go dance. Man, I would love to get some classes. I love to kind of go. The dance part of you never left.
Yeah.
It was just a shifting or realignment of priority.
Right.
But you didn't just say that's dead to me. Mm-hmm. Like that's not a part of me. And I always recognize that you be with the girls, y'all be dancing, you'll be just kind of doing stuff around the house and you do certain moves or the girls will do certain moves and you do it. And then you would kind of say, man, I would love to get more in some classes or do this or do that, right? Like that part of talking through it keeps it alive in you versus burying in it. The same way I like to just talk about the video games, the anime, I'll talk about it or watch. Like communicate. Right. Man, I kind of miss this. Yeah. Man, this was an important part of our life. I remember this. And talking through it and say, man, there's going to be a time when we can get back to do it. It kind of releases some tension or stress versus kind of what you say, compacting. Mm-hmm. And then you become constipated.
Yes.
Become constipated with all these feelings like that are like, I'm losing myself. And then you end up going,
Yeah. So I want to clarify that, like sometimes our discontentment, our frustrations in the marriage have nothing to do with our spouse. Mm. It can be that we are not fully coming alive because we're not embracing our individuality. Right. We're not walking in our purpose or calling. And then we're just kind of mad at the world. And sadly, we take it out on the person closest to us. Mm-hmm. So speaking to that spouse, that maybe you see that in your spouse, maybe try to create a safe space for them to open up and be vulnerable, or listen to them. Like Brock said, he noticed these patterns of me maybe missing dance. You could like surprise them. Remember, we talked about mind reading, not mind reading, but like, okay, I noticed this keeps coming up. Let me, like for him, anime, let me get, this DVD box set or whatever. Mm-hmm. Let me get some movie tickets. Let me get, I don't know, they have what do you call them? See, I don't even know, the cons or whatever. Comic-Con. Like, let's go do this together to breathe life into that thing. Right. And so I think that's a way you can support your spouse if they're struggling in that area.
Yeah. No, I agree. And here's, how can I word this? If you notice yourself having to go outside your marriage to be yourself, like really, really take that as a red flag. Like if you notice yourself having to have too many guys' night outs, too many girl trips, too many where you feel like I gotta get away from my marriage in order to come alive or to be myself or to be this individual. Like kind of analyze that as that might be a red flag that I don't feel safe. Yeah. I don't feel like I'm accepted in my home, or I feel like my home is not a place of peace, but I have to go outside of my home and be away with people who really embrace me for me. Now your individual self is kind of becoming unhealthy. That's the unhealthy
end of the spectrum of individuality, where you're actually pulling away from your spouse instead of bringing them into that space with you. You're then looking to other people, and that's dangerous.
For both ends too. Let me just specify that. For the one that feels like they have to get away, and for the one that is in the home that you got that feels like the person is pulling away from them. There's something there, because either you're not embracing them right? Or you have spoken things to them to make them feel judged or rejected. And then the other person is running away and then looking for those acceptance and embracing outside.
Yeah.
And that is not the environment for a healthy marriage. That's not the way it should be. So take that as a flag to like, wait a minute, let's kind of look at this. How is the condition of our home? How are we being receptive to each other individually? And how are we creating a safe space for each person to be themselves?
And to be honest, it could just be that leaving and cleaving concept. Like when you get married, your friendship circle should look different. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It can't just be, not saying you get rid of all your friends, but there should be more time with your spouse. Then you should have time with good, healthy couples. It can't just be with my single guy friends or my single girlfriends all the time. That something has to change because you need different things to feed your marriage. So it could just be defaulting to this is what I've always done.
Right. But and it comes with time. You mature and learn like how I need to be more accepting and how I need to get away from certain things and maneuver certain things. Like some things may have been cool individually prior to your marriage or maybe the first few years in your marriage. And then after a while, you kind of be like, all right, that might be over. The girl trips might be over. This might be over. But the communication piece of talking has to be there. Yeah. You know, and there has to be that unification and that oneness of where we're trending to. How is this effective and healthy in building our marriage versus is this individuality portion of who you are tearing us down?
And is it making your marriage stronger and better? If not, then whether you realize it or not, it's affecting it in some way because you're building greater intimacy with those people you hang with and not your spouse. Yeah. So it's not saying you can't do it, but look at the scale. Where's the scale? Where are you spending more time? Right.
So don't prioritize yourself over the marriage.
Yes.
I think that's one of the big keys to this is the individuality is supposed to enhance the marriage. You are supposed to be uniquely yourself and be able to show up uniquely yourself. But if we take certain traits of ourselves, like if I was to put, just to personalize it for me when I think about it, like one of my callings and giftings and one of the things I've been able to walk in has been music and hip hop and singing and all those types of things. But if I put that as king over our marriage, say, well, this is who I am and this is what I wired to do. And so this is going to be the everything of our marriage, our relationship, our family, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, it has to always be about this because this is, you're going to end up being mad, angry, upset, and it's going to push my family away because they're going to think that I'm valuing that portion of who I am over that. Even if y'all not a part of it, you can't do it with me, whatever, it could become an idol. Yeah. And then it could become a negative division maker in the home versus a unifier. And I have to look through it in the lens of that, that's part of who I am and what I do, but that's just not king over the relationship, over our marriage and where we're going. It's a part of it. Yeah. But it's not Lord over everything.
Am I willing to lay it down for the sake of my family? In our case, I was able to find where I fit into it, and I think that's ideal. But if you can't, you just need to agree, okay, honey, I need this amount of time each month, to go do this thing that makes me come alive. So I think it's just that communication. But intimacy is super important.
Facts.
So what are your key takeaways that you would leave with the listeners?
One, I think I would say self-discover. If you don't know and you feel like you've kind of lost yourself in the sake of the task of marriage, right? Like I'm husband, I'm wife now, I'm mom, I'm dad, I'm working, paying the bills. I'm doing all that and you kind of get in this routine of doing stuff and you feel like, man, well, what about me? Yeah. What about me? I would say take some time to process and figure out what parts of you have you kind of killed off that shouldn't have been killed off for the sake of doing marriage. And are you able to bring those back into the marriage and allow them to be on the table to say, this is who I am. I need these things to be a part of my life. And how can we make it be a part of our life? Because it's going to make things better. Because I remember when we first got married and we was in that cycle of work, pay the bills, go home, work, pay the bills, go home. Part of my
not it.
resentment and what made me bitter towards our marriage was the fact I felt like I lost my life.
Yeah.
For the sake of doing something good, which was being married and having kids. I felt like, man, my life was good when I was da-da-da-da-da. Like, and it was really because I didn't like know who I was personally.
Right.
And what really made me come alive. And I felt like I died for the sake of being married in the wrong way. And so, like, if you feel that way, man, like, self-discover and bring those things that are part of you that's supposed to be there back to life and put it on a table, and you and your spouse talk through of what can be there so that you can feel like you are alive in a marriage and not just routine.
Yeah.
And now you becoming your individual self at the same time being one with your spouse.
Right. And it's important to you, but it's also important to the marriage
Right.
because it's a part of the destiny you have together. It's important for your kids to see you both living out that one thing you were created to do.
Right.
I would say as a spouse, in that case, don't be a dream killer. Like if you have created an atmosphere where your spouse doesn't feel safe to share those intimate things, those dreams, those desires,
Right.
then they are going to suppress it. Or if you don't give them freedom to walk it out, they are going to go looking outside of the relationship to find fulfillment. They're going to go looking outside of the relationship to spend time and to do certain things, have experiences. So I would say just create a nurturing environment so that they can come alive, so that they can dream, and so they can walk in it too.
Right, right. And know that your differences are strengths.
Yep.
And so when you can show up like authentically yourself, the way you wired, you are actually built to complement your spouse, even in the quirky joke telling, like all the things, the anime stuff. Eventually, Dominique gonna watch some with me. She gonna be like, wow, the storytelling is this is gonna be great, amazing. And then that aspect might open up and unlock a whole nother portion of our storytelling. Like we gotta look beyond like some of the surface level things and think like, bro, these different things that we have and bring to the table are strengths. They're strengths to our marriage. And when we can throw it on the table and embrace it together, we'll be able to find the thread of why it's there. And then it's gonna like just enhance everything that's a part of the relationship and everything that's to come in the future for what y'all are together for. And so just be mindful of that.
The last thing I'll say is I think it's so important to have that common vision for your marriage. I hear too many times couples who've been together 20 years, 25 years, and they walk away. Why? Because they were just focusing on the day-to-day, like, let's raise the kids, let's do this. They conquered, like, conflict, but then there was no purpose for them together after. So I would say don't wait until the kids are gone. Figure it out early so that you have something anchoring y'all together for the long haul.
Right. Last thing I would say, I literally heard this before we started filming, just an example of a person in a relationship that whoever they were with at the time, they became kind of a chameleon and just changed their personality, shape-shifted for the person they're with. Listen, you can easily trap yourself in an identity crisis if you don't have stability and contentment and understanding of who you are and not trying to mold or shape yourself into something that's acceptable for somebody else, right? Do not do that. You have to be able to show up as you and let people embrace you as you, not in a prideful, arrogant type of way, but in a unique, genuine type of way. And you don't have to fit a square into a circle for the sake of a relationship, right? Don't do that because you end up hurting yourself and self-sabotaging yourself in the end. And that creates a lot of unhealthy things that can show up later in your life. So like find stability in who you are, contentment in who you are. Specifically allow God to lead the way in that and allow the right people to come into your life and accept you and embrace you in that way. So you don't find yourself in an identity crisis later on down the line. So,
That's good.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all for tuning in, man. Individuality, man. Walk your marriage out in this way and contend.
Yes.
Contend for the oneness and unity in your marriage because there's a great plan and purpose for you guys, man. This is Brock and Dominique signing off. If y'all guys need any marriage coaching, any marriage counseling, anything that y'all need, please reach out to us. Let us resource you guys. We want to do that for you. Much love from us to you. Peace.